how to collect. Our presenter today, our subject matter expert, is Alison McSporran. She is a paralegal. She specializes in small claims. She's been doing this for the last 7 years and actually has been on her own for the last 3 years, running her own company as well. So she is just like you. And at this point, I'm going to hand the floor over to Alison.
Thank you for the introduction, Carla. As she did state, my name is Alison McSporran. I have had my own small business, McSporran Paralegal, for the last 3 years, and I am a paralegal registered with the Law Society of Upper Canada. Because of this, I am aware of useful collection tips that are used today to make sure that your accounts stay solid. As you're aware, I will be speaking about the collection process that's related to small businesses specifically, and in this economy, it isn't unrealistic to think that something like this might happen to you. Considering that, we'll begin. What to expect in this webinar is the importance of collection. We'll also address the signs that a customer won't pay, what to be aware of, what to do when the client won't pay, proactive ways to collect so you don't have to maybe go to the court system, and because of that, best practices for collection. The importance of collection. There are all sorts of points in time once you have your client that you might expect that you have closed the deal, so to speak. But as you know, it's only when the check clears that you really have. A customer can always tell you that they will buy, but until the money is in hand, you only have the client's word. Therefore, signing the contract is a great start. But it still does not mean that the money will come easily, though it is important, nonetheless, to have these contracts signed in case of need for small claims court at a later date. The invoice part of the invoice part of the collection is also necessary. It acts as a reminder after your services have been rendered that the client is expected to pay within a certain amount of time. When the check is received, it's great. It's a part, obviously, of the collection process, but until, like it says at E, when the check clears, that's when you are technically in the clear and you're able to accept your pay packet. So dealing with that, we'll get on to signs when to look for where a client may not pay. As small business owners, you have to be vigilant about your collections. It's essentially your pay packet at the end of the day that's in jeopardy, and more than likely you are the only one doing your collections. Therefore, there are 3 things that you need to be aware of. One of the instances that you can run into is when a client won't respond in a timely fashion to your communications. If you send emails to your client asking if there hasn't been pay after a 30-day invoice has been put out, and they're not responding to that, if you try to put in telephone calls but they're not available or will phone you back at another time, these are tactics that unfortunately clients are using today to try to put off any type of payment. Another issue could be the promises of payment within a certain time frame and then none come. What happens at these points is you may have actually got in contact with your client. They've said, yep, definitely by Friday you're going to have it in cash in your office. I'll come and drop it off. And then obviously Friday comes and goes. You've had no payment, and Monday you're trying to get a hold of them again. If you do get a hold of them, the next thing that usually happens is they've given you an excuse what happened on Friday. They couldn't control it. The money will come by the next Friday. It'll only be so many times that you believe this, obviously, before it becomes obvious that that client also is not going to pay. Third, asking if your client comes in, wants your help, but is asking instead of paying you up front for a low deposit or no deposit. The issue here is that the concern would be if they're asking for no deposit or a very low deposit, that they in fact probably can't afford your fees for the entire service, and it may set off a red flag. So what to do when the clients won't pay? what I like to tell my clients, and the practice that I use myself, is basically a 90-day unit. At 30 days, initially what would happen is after you've done your service, you would put out your invoice, and in that invoice it would probably state within 30 days, if it's not paid, interest will begin to accrue at a certain amount per month. This is the reminder. So once you perform the service, the client is aware, obviously, that money is due. Your invoice comes out. It's a 30-day reminder that at some point this particular amount is due to you and needs to be paid. If you haven't received that within the 30-day period, what I instruct my clients to do is usually send out a statement of account with the now accrued interest of 1 month. This allows your client to have that one extra reminder before you have to start taking things a little bit further, becoming a little bit more serious with the client. The entire time, what you want to do is maintain the relationship with the client, but what you need to remember at the end of the day is it is your services. You do need to be paid for them. So if the 30-day reminder, the statement goes out with the interest, it isn't responded to, obviously you'd have a little bit of a concern. And at 60 days, what I instruct my client to do, anywhere between 60 and 90 days, is to put out a demand letter. Demand letters don't have to be threatening right away. Usually what helps is just a particular document stating, there's an overdue account. It has come to our attention that the account is outstanding. We have performed these services in good faith and obviously expect that to be remunerated within a certain time frame, 30 days of which is gracious enough. If there is an issue with the amount claimed, then please contact our office. But if not, then please contact our office with the time when you may be dropping off that payment. If this part goes by, if this letter goes by unanswered, then what you might find is that you may need to go the next step and try to collect your money through small claims court. What people need to remember is that if they have an amount that's outstanding, you in fact can't lien anything until you have a judgment that is given to you by the small claims court and deputy judges. So considering the amount, that's what I would have to instruct my clients to do. Considering the amount is going to decide whether or not you would need to proceed to small claims court via collections to secure your interest. Okay, so starting the process. With regards to starting the process, what I would let my clients know and what all small business people need to know, and it's how you're going to make your business grow. Trust your gut. You have clients that are coming to you. They need a specific service or product from you, but you are going to know whether or not you think that person is worthy of a red flag or not. They might say something that might set something off for you. That could be a concern about money. It could just be something that you're getting off of them, but definitely trust your gut. If you think that the money will not come from this particular individual, you might consider putting off that particular client. If it's something that you think, one of the things that I would use is just, I don't have enough time for your particular matter at this moment, and you might need somebody else that can better serve you more quickly. Just as an example, only because if you think there's going to be an issue with that, you don't want to continue wasting your time, because time is money. The other thing to be aware of is the client's trends. So if you have a client that you currently have or that you're getting, and if you charge by stages, or you invoice regularly for those services that have been rendered, if your client is paying on time each month, that's great. But what you want to keep an eye out for is, just in case one payment goes by 2 months later, another payment maybe goes by 3 months later, you want to keep an eye on the trends of your clients, because it might lead you to the knowledge or an awareness that there might be an issue, and to keep on that. The other part of the process is to stay on top of your accounts receivables. What I do myself personally is every month I go through every previous month I go through my accounts, see which ones have been paid out, see which ones haven't been paid out, so that I'm on top of the 30-day process where I can send out that account with the updated interest so that my client is aware where we are and so that I'm aware what the process step next that has to be done. So when you think there's a problem, there probably is a problem. As I said, you're a small business owner. This is your livelihood. You're going to have that little bit of an aptitude to know when there is an issue with your client, with the business that's been put forth, or obviously with collecting that account. At the end of the day, this account is your pay packet, and it is something that needs to be addressed seriously. So proactive ways to collect. For somebody in my business or consultants, things like that, legal professions, even contractors, asking for a deposit or a retainer is a proactive way to ensure that you will get paid. Contractors, they usually will come to you, this is what you want done, here's the amount that it's probably going to cost plus materials. Asking for a deposit to at least cover half of your costs, which would more than likely be your materials, is reasonable. Same with retainers, especially if you are providing basically your time and your knowledge. So a retainer, you can ask your client for a retainer, and obviously in a trust account, take away from that once your services have been provided. For new customers, also asking for a retainer or considering one is a good way to go. Like I said, it just ensures that the money is there and that you can bill from it from your trust account, and then you don't have to worry about continually asking for payment from a client. Another proactive way to stay on top of your collections is to stay knowledgeable about the stages of work provided. If you are going to provide them, as an example again, as myself, a paralegal, I provide documentation, i.e. a plaintiff's claim. If the plaintiff's claim has been completed and filed with the court, there's usually a defense that's needed by the other party, and then the next stage would be the settlement conference. Before we proceed to the settlement conference or even attend, I would make sure that the payment or the outstanding account of the plaintiff's claim has been covered. This is the same for any business. So if you're doing consulting, you know that there's going to be so much work that needs to be done for summarizing or analyzing something. Make sure that that's paid up before you go to the next step, things like that. The other option that you have to be proactive is to be aware of other possible enforcement options. Not all of them need to go through the court. There are things I'm sure you've heard of like construction liens. Eventually it does have to go through the court, but the fact of the matter is you can lien the work that you have done so that nothing else can happen with that particular property until such time that your lien is addressed. The same is there for solicitors' liens, and even accountants have the ability to hold back paperwork that they are providing until the accounts are paid in full. So that is a type of enforcement that you could have available to you. And the other one, another really great proactive way, just so that you're on top of your accounts, is to communicate with colleagues. What I let my clients know is that in and around the area that you specialize in, you're going to know more people that specialize in the same sort of things you do. And in all likelihood, people are going to call around before they settle on one person. So you might have a colleague that is able to say, I had this person, they had a concern with these type of prices. Just so you know, it's not to say that you don't have to take that client if they call, or that you might work better with that particular client, but it is always good to have colleagues in the same area that will alert you to red flags that they have also encountered. So if it comes down to it with the collection and you need to do that, here are some of the best practices to keep in mind. Always keep copies of your executed contracts. Okay, the contracts are necessary. What it does is it basically spells out for the client what they can expect from you, for what price, and once they have executed or signed the contract, it means that they have reviewed it with you, that they understand what they have signed on for, and it's going to help you in the long run in case small claims court is necessary. It's one of the easiest ways to prove your unpaid invoice and the fact that they did acknowledge it. Another thing that I always like to tell my clients, and I apply daily, is always photocopy the checks that you receive from your clients. This is good for two reasons. One, again, if you have an issue with the collection, you've watched your clients' trends, maybe they were great to begin with, but now it's starting to get a little bit more sparse, photocopy the checks. Once you have those photocopied checks, it's easier to show that there was an intent to pay the entire time. Maybe there's a reason they're not doing it now, but the fact of the matter is they have continued to pay you up until this point. Another great thing about photocopying the checks is if you are awarded judgment at the end of the day through small claims court, you'll already have part of your enforcement work done because you'll know exactly the bank that you need to go to garnish an account. Okay. Another issue that could happen while you're doing the collection practices, what I find is sometimes clients want to know why they're paying you the amount they're paying you. They feel it's too much. They feel they've paid you too much already. They don't feel like they've got the work for what they've put money forth. So sometimes just asking your client if there is an issue that they have that maybe you can explain to them. In all likelihood, sometimes an explanation and just a reminder that you have signed a contract, you are aware of what the fee schedules are, is enough to have your client calm down again and pay your outstanding account. So consider what you would take as a bottom line. And with this, what I mean is the charge that you have put forth to your client that they're maybe not wanting to pay might not be worth taking to small claims court. And if that's the case, what you need to do, and as it says 1 point lower, consider the amount offered versus cost related to small claims court. These two sort of tie together. So if you had a bottom line, if you would charge a client $500 for services, they felt maybe $300 was all they wanted to pay, and that $300 basically covers your costs, it might be something worthy of just remembering while doing your collection best practices, only because the amount of time and the fees that are related to small claim court might equal the amount that you are willing to let go. And if that is the case, it's going to save you time and money at the end of the day rather than pursuing a judgment in small claims court. So that is an option that you have. For example, contractors. If a contractor is building a deck for a customer, some of the things that they should do is, like I'd said and stated the entire time, executed contracts, stating what is expected to cost, what products will come out of it, and then a signature acknowledging that is going to be the best thing that you can do. For contractors, getting that deposit, if it's 50% of the amount that's going to be claimed, that will more than likely cover the material costs. So at the end of the day, if your client doesn't pay, at least you're not out of pocket for product that you don't get to use and that they will have the betterment of. What I also instruct my clients is that always complete the product. It's always easier at the end of the day, should you need to go to small claims, to state, I did complete this, this is what was agreed to, instead of saying, I did complete a portion because I didn't get paid and now I need a percentage of what the actual amount owed is. Another example is a consultant. People providing services related to experience that may not at first seem physical, like the deck would be physical. as I stated, as a paralegal or even as a consultant, a lot of what people are paying for is your knowledge and your time. And if that's the case, sometimes they don't feel like they're getting their money's worth because they're not sure how much of your time is actually going into their issue. So again, contracts, specifying the services, providing them with fee schedules so they know exactly what to expect, going over that with them, and then having them sign that, acknowledging that they have read and understood it. Like consultants, obtaining a retainer for your services makes it easier once it's in a trust account to subtract the services from that instead of continually having to invoice your client. And clarifying for your client that it is your time and experience that you're charging for. If you weren't working for them at that particular time, then it would be somebody else that would be paying for that. So just to clarify so they understand that that's the product that you're selling. Though at the end of the day, with consultants and paralegals and other such things, there will be some physical progress. There's usually documentation that needs to be required, or just something that shows for consultants that they have put their time into this. Here are, the people that I've said will come to you, will look into your product, and showing that will help your client. So at the end of the day, a sale really only counts once the check clears. What you need to remember is that it is your small business. And just like we've all lost money for non-paying clients, as long as you keep these things in mind, you're more than likely to continue to collect and be aware of signs that could potentially be red flags. And once you know that, then at least you would have options or collection processes to follow to ensure that hopefully you don't need to go to small claims court, and then further, if you did need to go to small claims court, that you know what sort of process that you might need to follow. If you keep aware of the telltale signs of the possible non-payment and are proactive when signing clients, collections will become easier and more profitable in the end.
Great. Well, thanks, Allison. I don't know if anyone on the line has any other questions for us at this time.